Greetings and welcome to Enigmatic. Happy Monday. I hope everybody's feeling rested and relaxed and ready to take on the day, take on the week. Do what you gotta do, whether that's grinding hard or rejuvenating and practicing some self-care. And I just hope that you do what is right for you. And doing what's right for me is part of why I wanted to talk about a little bit about drug perspectives. It's a very interesting topic, especially considering there's a lot of people who aren't educated with regards to drugs and things like psychopharmacology or understanding like pharmacodynamics and kinetics and things like that still want to cast very staunch opinions. Some of these people are actually in positions of power and they're able to draft legislation. And it's all a very complex and convoluted situation, because when we think about drug laws and how the damage that's done, we can also look at, why do we have locks on our doors? Because people don't have very good scruples. And so do people have good enough scruples to really be able to, test the limits of their minds and bodies with certain types of substances, right? Alexander Shulgin, in The Nature of Drugs, Volume 1, which is a collection of transcripted lectures that he gave in the 1980s. He's a psychopharmacologist and chemist, if nobody knows who he was. MDMA probably wouldn't be as popular as it is without him and his wife. But he talks about nature of drugs, about how, like, what do we really mean? Like, where's the line that we draw when we decide what a drug is and what a drug is not? Because simply, a drug is a certain kind of chemical that has certain types of reactions in the body. But you could say that about almost any molecule except for water. Chocolate makes you feel a certain kind of way. Coffee and caffeine, the vitamins and minerals in fruits and vegetables give you certain types of responses and reactions that we consider good and healthy, right? So it's like, where are we drawing the line? So there's one area of complication. What do we really fucking mean when we talk about drugs? Because then the other issue too is some people will say like, oh, well, chemicals that are made in a lab. Well, there's plenty of things that we consider drugs that are naturally occurring, biosynthesized by plants, for example. There's even psychoactive compounds that are produced by certain animals in high amounts. So like a particular fish off of, I believe it's the coast of West Africa, has, I think it's, actually I can't remember what it is, but it's a pretty hefty compound, one of the more intense psychedelics. And so, yeah, we have like these weird lines that we want to draw about, when something is a drug and when it's not. And a lot of things that we consider drugs now, we overgeneralize as bad because of conditioning that is brought about by society and the powers that be, that they kind of make it seem like they know more than you, which in some regards they do. Like there's people that do spend years and years and years of study on different molecules and compounds and their effects on the body. But it's the interpretations that kind of drive some issue, right? That, people should be kept away from these things. I bring this up, I guess maybe I should just move a little closer to the point that I bring up, but I've talked at length on here, and I've talked at length in other places as well, about how it's kind of hard for me to do psychedelics, even though I do them often. Like, I don't necessarily feel like, oh yeah, here we go, like, I'm taking my medicine, or hey, I love doing this and this is great for me and this is good for me. Like, there's so many other obstacles that get in my mind instead of having those positive thoughts for myself. And granted, some of this is also going to be based on the complications of my own relationship with myself, and that's why using psychedelics also helps me to fortify that relationship with myself, to help me gravitate closer and closer to self, so that there's less self-doubt and more confidence in the choices that I make, and, more acceptance and receiving. But, I'm a very considerate person. So here's a hypothetical. I like to rely on Changa, for example, to help me with my mental health. I have like mood disorders. I'm always a moody little shit. That's just kind of how it is. I don't mean to be that way, but that's how it is. And there's certain things about changing my quote unquote perspective that it's like, no, I can't do that because I'm a philosopher. And there's certain things that are very important to me in philosophy that go beyond me that I want to adhere to. But, because what I want to do in order to help my mental health isn't something that is considered socially acceptable or part of the standard. So if I'm talking to a doctor, for example, that's not in their breadbasket of things that they can promote or encourage or be necessarily accepting of with regards to how I'm handling myself, right? Because they don't have the research to fall back on in order to ethically say that that's okay. So oftentimes they're going to try to actually get me to do something else. This has happened with cannabis too. I smoke cannabis every day because it helps me function. Um, like a switch flipped when I was 18 and I smoked weed for the first time, and I was like, whoa, like I can function and I feel somewhat normal. I don't feel like I'm, trying to walk on eggshells in order to not blow up myself and things like that. So these societal perspectives, no matter how much we try to like push back against them, they affect us in one way or another. And that's something that I deal with, is that I know that what I want to do isn't necessarily considered acceptable under a certain, what I would consider, limited standard. And I have to break that shell, right? Because I know what's best for me. Now, that's not to say that every person out there knows what's best for them. Again, why do we have locks on our doors? Because we don't trust the scruples of other people. Why do we have laws? Like, why do we have, rules of the road? So that people don't do dumb shit. People are going to do dumb shit. And the thing is that, if somebody does dumb shit and it only affects them, it depends on what kind of effect that dumb shit has. Because say, for example, somebody dies, somebody needs to clean that up. Say, for example, somebody enters into a psychosis because of a psychedelic experience. Well, the people that they are in relationship with have to deal with that as well. So it's not as much of a, quote unquote, self-harming act as we think it is. And this is why I'm a huge advocate for mindful use. And I understand why other people might not necessarily be as supportive of somebody else's use of certain types of drugs. Now, granted, I am specifically talking in the realm of psychedelics and like mental health, right? If we expand this out into other drugs, then we do have even more complications that come out. So, for example, one of the ways in which I think that, the medical community and big pharma has kind of screwed us over is with regards to opiates. Opiate addiction is extremely bad right now, and this is where the powers that be decided to take advantage of us. There's a lot of court documents and other types of documentation to show how people that were part of some of the corporations developing a lot of these opioids were pushing doctors to prescribe them more so that they could have better sales. It's kind of funny. This is a very complex topic, and I wanted to try to cover a bunch of bases like quickly based on something personal that I was, thinking about and going through, which is regards to me taking my damn medicine. And how I just like the societal effect of like why that makes it hard for me. I feel like I'm kind of getting away from that by bouncing all over the place, such is the nature of my mind. So it's all good. Yeah, the other thing that like bothers me about this topic though is how traditional and marginalized groups, people that have used, for example, plant medicines for a very, very long time, their voices are just completely shut out with regards to the benefits that could be generated from relationship and use with these plants and these medicines and everything that they bring up and elicit. It wasn't until it could be forced into what is considered an acceptable paradigm that other Western minds are, steeped and conditioned in before it could be accepted. So, for example, people had to see through studies that there is the potential for mental health benefits for psychedelics. So yeah, just a little bit of that there. This is something I'll definitely probably come back to. Because as you could tell, I'm searching through this on a personal note, and it's something I come back to a lot. It's a loop. So it's one of those patterns that I'm always trying to break. But yeah, again, happy Monday. I hope everybody gets what they need today. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, share, and be good to you, be good to others, and I'll talk to you next time. Peace.